Well, a very good afternoon to you, Nompu, and good afternoon to our viewers coming to you from the Results Operating Centre here in Durban, where we've just had a briefing this afternoon from the IEC on the situation on the ground. And one can say that it's been a smoother day for the IEC today. A number of challenges, of course, that we reported on yesterday with public demonstrations, thus affecting the start of the special voting process in this province over the past 2 days. It was expected that over 100,000 people who had made applications to cast their special votes were going to vote. And despite the challenges and the hiccups in certain areas yesterday as a result to access, due, as we know, and a couple of weeks ago, parts of Durban and the province of KwaZulu-Natal were hit by severe floods, which cut off access in certain areas. And so that was one of the other challenges that the IEC had. But the briefing that we had that we were expecting to make over the 2 days, they were able to go to 42,000 homes, and of the over 31,000 visits to the voting stations, 12,000 voters came through. So they said despite the challenges, they've actually did quite well yesterday, and of course the remaining of those votes were going to be cast today. The picture, as I said, today looking much better than it was yesterday. A few service delivery protests in certain areas, but they did not hinder or upset the election officers. Of course, there are still some concerns, security concerns, new areas that have now been reported as volatile, and areas which the police are focusing on, that being around Escort, several areas in the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal, and one or two areas in the south. But also there's been quite a big focus here in the Durban CBD. As you know, that there has been those ongoing protests by municipal workers, and there's been a number of service delivery protests as well here in the city of Durban. So they're looking at police looking out in those areas. An additional 1,700 officers were deployed this morning to various areas across the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Security agencies have also said that there is going to be an additional pool of police officers that are going to be stationed in strategic areas where they will be able then to respond should the need arise. We also have the South African National Defence Force that has already been roped in certain areas to assist. Also, again, going to be more soldiers that will be standing by in the event that they are needed to come and assist insofar as the security. But we understand at the moment they are assisting in terms of those areas where access has been rather difficult, where bridges were washed away. So they've brought in the military in those areas to assist, so people are going to be able to cross. But you're speaking about it being nationally a good dry run for the IEC Nompu to test its systems. Certainly it's been from the IEC here in KwaZulu-Natal a very good 2 days. They have said they were able to see where they had issues. They've had to, in certain areas, increase capacity, and that is because they were able to pick up with issues today. Also the relationships and then working with the respective party agents. We've got a record 31 political parties that are contesting here in the province of KwaZulu-Natal this year. So there's been quite a push by those parties, we understand, all wanting to be part or to accompany IEC officials to the respective homes. But they're saying that it's been a good 2 days for them to run through that. And just speaking about what has been going on with the IEC, I now have the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Mawethu Mazure, who's the acting Deputy Chief Electoral Officer. Thank you very much. I know that you've been in Johannesburg for a couple of days, but thank you very much. Welcome back home.
Thank you very much for the welcome back. It's good to be home, and also good to see how things are coming together in preparation of tomorrow.
Listen, I was just saying that the briefing, you said a better picture today. It seems that things are running a lot more smoother than the challenges that we had yesterday, but still certain issues here and there. We did pick up that your officials were threatened in certain parts of the province. What is the situation around the safety of IEC officials?
Well, generally, the safety of this election tomorrow and also for the two special votes days has been very good from SAPS, escorts, interventions at the right moment throughout the province, and nationally it's been a similar response from the police. In this province, there were threats towards staff because of community protest in Bergville, in Jozini, in Umhlabuyalingana, but most of those did not materialize because of the interventions politically and in terms of security. And for today, there were hardly incidents reported that interfered with the voting process. So voting in terms of special votes is continuing very smoothly today.
You've said that the day was going to be used to test your systems. Just overall, are you happy with the past 2 days? Equipment is all there. You did say that you're assured that all your officials have been gone through the training. Any areas of concern, possibly?
At this stage, our areas of concern are basically human, in the sense of people being able to wake up in the first instance, and secondly, if people have ailments and they can't be at the voting station for whatever reason. Other than that, we have no worries at this point. We have sufficient ballot papers for everyone who's registered to vote, and we also have sufficient ink to make sure that you don't vote twice. But on top of that, we are stamping the ballot papers. We've got our voters' rolls. So we are all set to go in terms of tomorrow.
Speaking of tomorrow, just to wrap tomorrow, obviously it's the big day. For those that have been unable to cast their votes in these 2 days, they also have tomorrow. But just overall, we had issues where the floods had washed away, affected some of your infrastructure is concerned. I know you've put in some temporary measures there, but how's the picture looking like specifically for tomorrow?
The tomorrow, in terms of Weather Bureau projections, it's looking very well, and it's a fair weather system. It's not too hot, not too cold for us being in the winter season, but also the prediction of rain is very low at 30% or less, which is good. So in terms of the infrastructure in this particular province, the provincial government led by Kokta has done very well to rehabilitate a number of areas in terms of access roads, the venues that we might use. We are also aware that there are venues that are now being used as shelters for those who are displaced by floods, and in those instances we have established tents to accommodate the voting process. So it's all systems go in terms of our preparedness. The logistics were tested yesterday and today with the special votes, and we're happy to note that we were able to open most voting stations without trouble.
Before I let you go, Mr. Mazrui, I know you had one plea to our voters tomorrow to get to those voting stations on time.
Not on time. We just say get there early and vote, but do two things: bring an ID, but also check that your ballot paper is stamped at the back so that it is authenticated and verified as a correct ballot and a valid ballot.
All right, thank you so much there for your time, Mr. Mawetu Mazrui, the acting Deputy Chief Electoral Officer, just taking us through, of course, today being a smooth day for the IEC, but also what we can expect tomorrow. It's not over yet. We still have 2 or so hours to go before the 5 p.m. cutoff, and we'll be giving you an update later on this afternoon as far as were they able, has the IEC been able to get to the 70,000 home visits that they had planned, and whether or not those that had applied for the special votes to go to the voting stations, whether or not they've been able to get the 31,000 applications as they had received. We're going to leave it here for now, Nompu. It's back to you.
Thanks, Ayanda, for that update. Ayanda Mhlongo there in KZN. Well, that's all from us, from myself.